last point I really want to bring up, and this is what I would say is probably takes up majority of that 4 hours, aside from the character development, that was welcome addition, is Zack Snyder's reliance on fucking slow motion.
I knew going into a Zack Snyder movie that there was going to be,
fucking
countless slow motion shots.
Slow motion, even when the Flash is moving, it's fucking slow motion. Jesus Christ, man. I knew that with 300, that's his thing. That's what he gets so hard on for. But Jesus Christ, did it have to be everywhere?
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Connington, joined by my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
I ripped a fart early, and I think it woke one of them boxes. Shit, what the mother boxes? Fuck.
One of those mother boxes? Is that was your lame attempt at a Boston accent?
It was wicked pisser.
Donnie Wahlberg is going to have a big problem with that if he listens to the show.
Those Wahlberg brothers will have a problem with anything.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, mother boxes. Mother boxes. So if you guessed it, we're on episode 208. We're going to be talking about Justice League.
Our 4-hour review. No.
Yeah, a 4-hour review. And in line of our creative vision, we're going to be delivering this to you in old-timey radio because that is our creative vision. Yeah. So
yeah, we're actually recording this on the same device that Edison recorded.
Exactly.
Because that's what, we wanted to bring this to you.
Exactly. But before we get to that, I wanted to take a step back from the comedy. Okay, we can talk about Boston and mother boxes.
Yes.
All day. But some of the listeners might have noticed. The past couple episodes, our good friend and honestly collaborator we've been with since the beginning, Lane Woolscroft, has not been present on the podcast.
Right.
We weren't lying when we said she had mic broken. Actually, she did. But
yeah, there was about 2 episodes that she missed. It didn't have anything to do with what is currently happening. It was unfortunate. We wish we had her for those, considering what we're about to tell you.
Yes. Yeah. So Lane has had kind of a lot going on her plate. The pandemic has really kind of honestly been kind of stressful for all of us. And she kind of asked me if it would be possible to take a little bit of a break from the podcast, which of course I was like, sure, no problem. Obviously she's a friend first and a podcaster second. So Lane's going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus from the show. She's not completely gone. Okay. I already talked to her today. She said she definitely wants to come back, but just needs a bit of a break. Okay. So she is going to still be contributing. She actually mentioned that she might want to even do some blog posts on the website, which is great because honestly, I suck at that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm terrible. I'm terrible. I mean, one, if you looked at her website, it really needs an update. And honestly, that's on my list of things to do. But this might be the kind of the kick in the ass because Elaine's going to look and be like, this is shit. But so for the, near future, it's just going to be kind of, John and I riding shotgun together as we take you through the movies. But keep in mind that Lane is not gone. She's just taking a bit of a break from the show, which, I mean, honestly, 208 episodes. I think she's deserving of a break. When we started this thing, it was 2016, okay? And now we're in 2021. We've gone through, more than that, over a year of a pandemic. I have a kid now, got married in the middle of that time. there's been a lot that's happened in life, and we've still kind of kept with the show. So I was not surprised at all when she mentioned that she just, needed a little bit of a break. So that's honestly what I want to make sure we mention that before we kind of got into Justice League, because it is a big deal. It's big news.
Yeah, and we can't say how long she'll be gone, but we want her back as soon as possible. Yes. And we were walking her back with open arms as soon as she is ready to come back to us.
Absolutely.
So if you're all like, I love the female and the two neckbeards piss me off, I'm sorry for however many episodes you got to listen to us.
We might, you know what? We might in this time, bring a guest on to kind of guest co-hosts, and we're open to that. And again, this is not forever. This is just a break, and Lane will be back. But with that said, you got us. So you got us. We're gonna neckbeard away.
For better or worse, you fuckers.
And what better way to neckbeard away than by talking about some comic books and comic book movies? Yeah. Right.
All right, Brian. I'm gonna right off the bat here. I just want to throw it right at you. What did you think?
I thought you were gonna say what the fuck.
No. What did you think?
Oh, what did I think? Okay, so that's a loaded question.
Do you want me to go first?
I mean, you just got me right after the big news announcement. Yeah. So yeah, you go first, John. Okay, you go first.
It was a hell of a lot better than the theatrical version, which wasn't hard. It was, I would actually say, decent. It has a problem any Zack Snyder movie does, which is over pretension, but. But oddly, for a 4-hour movie, it didn't really feel that long. I didn't think this movie was great, but I didn't think it was terrible. I thought it was a movie. So
that's a very fair and very mature review there, John. I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you. You're a special boy.
Thanks.
You're my special boy.
My dad never told me that.
So my thoughts on it were that honestly, the bar was really fucking low. Really, 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 really fucking low for this one. I mean, for the most part, you just had to show up. That being said, I did not watch this all the way through. So, because it's 4 fucking hours. I did not watch this all the way through. I watched it in 2 nights. Okay. I watched about half of it. So about half of a 2-hour movie, half of a 4-hour movie. And then the next night I watched the other half. And I got to say, there was not a time that I was not engaged with the content.
Yeah.
Okay. There was never a time that I'm just like, yeah, this is boring. Okay.
Surprisingly, for a 4-hour movie, it did. There wasn't really a lag.
But I will disagree. Did it feel like a 4-hour movie? Fuck yes, it did. It did. It did. But it kept me engaged. It kept me going. And that's saying something, because the truth of the matter is that not a whole lot of movies are able to do that anymore. I watched, not talking necessarily about Justice League, but I watched a movie the other day on Netflix with my wife, because we were kind of in the mood for movies after we watched Justice League. So we're like, what's this? I looked on Netflix. I'm like, oh, there's a movie called Molly's Game that came out in like 2017. Did you ever see it?
Molly's Game. That sounds familiar, but I can't place
it's got Jessica Chastain in it. It's actually based on a true story about Hollywood scumbag poker players.
Yeah, I know of this movie, but I did not see it.
So it's really, really, really good. It's a Steven Soderbergh directed movie. Okay, so not written. I mean, I think he wrote it, but this was, I think, one of his first ones directing the film. And like Justice League, it kept me engaged. Okay, and it's hard to find movies like that really just keep you engaged. We are not just saying, "Oh, I got to look to my phone." I think that's kind of the test. There is if you can be kind of locked in on the movie and kind of follow the action, that's half the battle, in my opinion. And we're gonna talk about some of the things that worked and some of the things that didn't work. But one thing I'll say is that why the fuck did Warner Brothers put out the shit that we saw in 2017?
I have a couple of theories on that.
Like,
there's so much to break down with this.
What? If I was the head, I think a lot of the heads that the studio are gone that were involved with that, because I think I remember a lot of the news. I think we actually covered it. We said that, they put out that and then kind of took giant bonuses because of Justice League, right? They put that out. They had to put it out even though they knew it was shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, that's a big problem is that studio executives are not creative people. And all they do is they read stats, and it's like, okay, our movies don't do as financially well as Marvel, so we have to make them just like Marvel movies. And Zack Snyder is not a Marvel movie kind of guy, so they say, oh, let's bring in the Marvel guy, and he'll put in jokes, and then we'll have a success. You can't. You can only go in and correct so many things.
The only problem is that the mental state of the Marvel guy have been bruised because of fucking Age of Ultron.
Well, and he's also a sexist, racist asshole. So,
well, there is that.
Yeah,
there is that one. There is that one that's come to light. We can shit all over. What's his face now? Joss Whedon. We can shit all over Joss Whedon now. We're not saying it just because Lane isn't here, but just because he is kind of a garbage person now.
She would be leading the charge. Yeah,
I know.
She used to love him, and I
know.
He's like, he broke my heart.
There are episodes, if you go back to her back catalog, where I know that Lane would bring up Joss Whedon, and we'd be like, he's okay, but he's not great. But no, she's like, no, he was great. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. Well, now we could say he's a garbage human being. But
are you ready for Twitter to turn on us? All right, I'm gonna get Twitter to turn on us. Firefly is overrated.
Hey, now, I actually like Firefly. Fuck off.
I know. I just was like, I'm gonna stir up a shitstorm right here.
It's not overrated. I like it. It's a good show. Okay, even Serenity's good. Okay. Point is that I gotta wonder, why the fuck would Warner Brothers put this movie out there that they clearly knew was not good? Like, there was no way in hell that you could take a look at that Justice League movie that came out in 2017 and even think that it was anywhere near the vision that Zack Snyder had. Nowhere near.
May I propose a theory on this?
Yes. What is your theory, John?
I believe, in the research that I've done, I believe this is true, that he had finished the 4-hour movie, and I think that they showed it for the executives, and they said, jumpin' Jesus titty fucking Christ, this movie is 4 hours, and it's a dour, sad mess, even though every one of these movies that Zack Snyder makes is a dour, sad mess. And I think
I did not see this as a dour, sad mess.
Well, it's a lot of, sometimes it's just even his tone and his color correction, his color grading, which if you don't know what that is, that's how they change the color to have how
and we've
the film
complained
looks.
About that before, and I agree.
His movies look like barf. But so I think what they did is they took advantage of the fact that he had a family tragedy. His daughter Autumn, passed away tragically, and they took the opportunity to take this from him and said, we need a 2-hour movie. We need it to be lighter. We need a guru to come in and absolutely change this, because no one's going to sit for a 4-hour movie. And a lot of the reasons they say that movies are around 2 hours is that is usually how long people can go before they have to go to the bathroom. That's really why movies are 2 hours. And so
interesting. I didn't know that.
And before the pandemic and before streaming, which we'll get into here, not that streaming wasn't there, Netflix and Amazon Prime, yada, yada. But, the idea was that, of course, this was going to be released in the movie theater. And, people don't want to leave their seats, but they also, 4 hours, you're going to have to get up at some point.
Yeah, but no one's going to get up in the middle of a 4-hour movie and say, I'm out of here.
Well, not leave, but, especially if you love these movies and, you don't want to miss anything. So even if you have to, if you're running to the bathroom at the movie theater, you're like, oh, I hope I didn't miss Wonder Woman this or Cyborg that, because I just, especially the people that worship the altar of Zack.
You know what I also think, and this is completely unfounded. This is just, again, kind of thinking about history, okay, to kind of lead to that. Because I think you might have something there about the runtime being a concerning thing. Do you remember when Quentin Tarantino and what's his fucking face, Robert Rodriguez, put together The Grindhouse?
Yeah.
Okay, and I think it was 2006 or 2007. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was billed as a 2-movie, 4-hour type deal, and it bombed. It bombed as all hell. I went and saw it because I love that shit.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was totally in. I was there for the full 4 hours. I loved it. 100%
Who had the better movie?
Loved it. What was
Who had
that?
the better movie? Who had the better movie?
Oh, well, I mean, I liked
Tarantino.
No, I liked Planet Terror.
Ah, damn it. I like Tarantino. I'm very much alone on that one. Nobody really seems to like Quentin's, but they love Robert Rodriguez.
Don't get me wrong. I didn't mind Death Proof. I just, I'm a horror nut. So when I see a bunch of fucking zombies, and Rose McGowan's got a machine gun leg, I'm gonna watch that. But my point is that I think that people were thinking, okay, look at what happened to Grindhouse. We build it as a 4-hour movie. We said it's more of an experience. We baked in intermission. And what happened? No one fucking came to it. So I think that might have been in the heads of some of these executives thinking about that. Are people really going to go to a movie theater for 4 hours? I think they will if you're billing it as the same thing as, say, Avengers. Okay. The problem, though, and this is what I would say the problem with that, where I could see issues, is that DC is nowhere near the level of the Avengers. Nowhere near it. Not anywhere near close. DC hasn't been at that level since The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've had just bipolar would be the nicest way to put it. I would say just continuous failure with their film projects and stuff. And I don't know if at that point, when they saw the 4-hour cut of Justice League, if they thought to themselves, did we make the worst mistake possible by letting this guy helm the ship? But I will say this, why I've only liked maybe 10% of the DC movies. Now I should say the DC EU, because I'm not counting like the Michael Keaton Batmans or the Christopher Nolan Batmans or George Reeves Superman or anything like that. But the extended universe, while I probably only liked like 10% of it, I do appreciate that Zack Snyder at least has a different vision or a different way of telling these stories than just copying Marvel, because Marvel was more successful first. Even though he's a pompous, grandiose douchebag, like at least he has a different approach to it.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I think that people had problems with Man of Steel, is that it came hot off the tails of Nolan's Dark Knight universe. And honestly, it felt a lot like Superman in Nolan's Dark Knight universe. At least to me, it felt like that. I didn't have too much of a problem with it, but I can see where people can draw parallels to it.
Well, and the weird thing is, I would say for a 4-hour movie, like it really did go dot to dot to dot to dot to dot, like plot point, plot point. And I don't think, unless you really do an overhaul and bring in somebody like Joss Whedon, I don't think you can just trim that 4-hour movie down. I think you could get it to like 3 hours and 10 minutes maybe, but I don't think you could turn that into a 110-minute movie as it was. So I think that okay, Joss Whedon, come in, make it funnier, but also rework the script, and we'll pay you to redo a lot of these scenes.
Well,
and we'll also change the color palette to make it not look like barf.
The color palette in Whedon's cut is ridiculous too. It reminds me of 1960s Batman. It really just reminds me of that color palette of 60s, because they just splashed color everywhere. I'm a fan of color. I do color correction. I do color grading. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. Honestly, what you need is a happy medium. Okay, you need to definitely use what Snyder does with adding in, I don't know, darkness to scenes that need darkness, but at the same time, you should have some color and give meaning to what that color is there for, right?
Not every scene should be just dour and gray and awful, because that you're telling a story with your color, and
Correct.
if everything is that way, there's no reprieve from the sad look.
Yes, and that's why no one looks at, say, a movie like Blade Runner 2049 and compares it to Zack Snyder movies, okay? Because Roger Deakins, who's a cinematographer behind that film, understands color, understands how to use it. Still similar subject matter, very dark, dour atmospheres and dark and dour characters, but how is color used? There's a difference there. So, that is definitely a difference. But honestly, one thing I got to say about, and I'm glad you mentioned the editing in here, is that I think that the Snyder cut really demonstrates how different a movie can be based on the editing alone. Because honestly, the minute that they started changing things, I noticed that even scenes that were already in, Whedon's cut of it, the tone of it completely changed based on the edit decisions. And it's amazing. Like, honestly, you went from these characters kind of doing an Avengers, esque, fight both between each other, to more or less having a discussion about the, why what they should do. And no one's trying to get one up on one another. Yeah, there's some back and forth between Aquaman and Bruce, but I mean, honestly, it's Aquaman. He's a dick. But I just found it was extremely refreshing to see that you didn't have, Diana, basically the den mother of the Justice League, which I criticized that original cut of it for doing that, for taking Wonder Woman and basically knocking her down to the den mother of a bunch of assholes.
Well, she was what I like to call sexy mom, which is, I go back to Return of the Jedi when they wanted to have not only Carrie Fisher in a sexy bikini, but the studio said we need to make her more motherly. So they wanted her to be sexy mom, which is some nice Freudian shit right there.
That's some Freudian shit right there.
But I remember one of the shots, because somebody was comparing how she, like Gal Gadot, is it Gadot?
I think it's
or
Gadot.
Gadot, yeah.
Gadot.
How she was filmed in the Wonder Woman movie by a female director as compared to a male director. And I remember the one shot where Batman's arriving and the camera is right behind Gal's butt. And I thought, oh, that's Zack Snyder. That's Zack Snyder all the way. When I watched this cut, it's not there. It's Joss Whedon's pervy ass.
Joss Whedon. Yeah.
I would have been. You put a gun to my head before I saw like this version. I would have said, "Oh yeah, that's a Zack Snyder shot."
Nope. I don't. The thing is, I never saw Zack Snyder as that type of person. I mean, yeah, we can look at people like Robert Rodriguez who do that shit all the time. But Zack Snyder, if you look at his past movies like 300, he's not really taking advantage of females in his films. Like, he's not like trying to purposely, frame their asshole. There is that one.
And 300 overly sexualizes men, so it's kind of that in the reverse.
I forgot about Sucker Punch. Forgot about that fucking movie. But he got a lot of shit for that one. He got a lot of shit for that one, though.
I remember watching that, and I was like, Zack Snyder, I will hate you till the day I die, because I sat through this.
Yeah, it's true. Oscar Isaac's first movie, I think. I think that was one of his first ones.
Yeah. Oh, and also because he remade Dawn of the Dead, and I hate him for that, too.
I don't terribly hate that one. I don't hate it. I mean, I hate it on principle because you're taking a classic.
Exactly. Yeah, because I'm with you. I don't think it was that bad of a movie. I hate it on principle.
I've seen much worse. How many fucking Night of the Living Dead remakes have come out in the 2000s alone? Or
about 380.
Day of the Dead, like Contagion, Day of the Dead Contagion, and then other things. You're taking advantage of that fucking name. So I can't begrudge Snyder completely for that. I own that copy, that version. But yes, I can understand saying, yeah, that's my movie, and why are you fucking remaking it in the first place? Yeah. But I just really think, getting back to my point, I really think that the editing in this is really one of the highlights. Being able to take something and flesh out these characters and make them more than just two-dimensional, flat superheroes. Marvel's been able to do this to some extent. We look at a Marvel film, and for the most part, and this has been really done on those individual movies, like Civil War. I know you don't really care for Civil War, but Winter Soldier did a lot of this too, where there are moments between the action where we do get introspective on the characters. And, in absence of having these individual films to do that, which that would be a good strategy to go about doing, DC, just saying, you kind of have to do that in 4 hours. It's kind of why you need the 4 hour long length of time, because you're introducing characters that we don't have any other movies on.
Well, I would maybe disagree with you a little bit there on Marvel, because while I would say Marvel is consistently entertaining, everybody probably has a rank of what they think is the absolute best to the absolute worst. But I think that they're vapid. I think that I don't think there's much character development at all in Marvel, but I think that it's popcorn enjoyment and you don't really need it. And I would say one of the only times that I ever saw a character development was one that people hated was Iron Man 3, when he had post-traumatic stress disorder from what happened to him during the Battle of New York.
Yeah, that's true. I think obviously Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark has probably the most character development in the entire MCU. But I would also say that, pretty much every one of the Captain America movies you could say it's popcorn, and yes, they are. But each one of those is giving you a little bit of, Steve Rogers' journey from being just the guy from Brooklyn who wants to stop Nazis and doesn't want to fight, but doesn't like the small person getting picked on, to kind of at the end of this whole arc, because he does have an arc, basically realizing that he wants a life and not just to be a soldier. So I disagree. I think that there is popcorn entertainment, yes. And now, obviously, I look at a movie like Doctor Strange, and I think that, yes, that is absolutely very vapid. Not a whole lot there. It's honestly a Tony Stark with magic. But
well, there's a reason a character like Doctor Strange is. He did have his own line of comics. I don't need actually from the audience out there, but he really is he's a great supporting character. It's why he's great in the Avengers movies. But I guess they're doing the multiverse thing, so I'm
curious to see how that comes.
Yeah. But if it wasn't a multiverse thing, I'd be like, oh, Doctor Strange too, yeah. but yeah, no, I agree with you though. The 4 hours, and that's the problem when you have a movie that has 6 central characters, and then you also want to give the villains time as well, and then the side characters like Lois and Clark's mom, Martha. Why do you say that name? But when you want to. You got to flesh out all these characters, 4 hours almost seems like a minimum, which, let's talk about the fact that this came out on HBO Max, because I feel like there's a few options that you have for something like this. Either do the Harry Potter and Twilight and, Hunger Games thing and split it into two, have 2 hour and 5 minute movies or something like that, and say coming soon, part 2 of Justice League, or do it as a streaming thing. I thought to myself, this would be kind of great as 8 half-an-hour blocks like WandaVision.
Yeah.
I know that they want it in the movie, the movie theaters, because that's where they're going to make the most money, and they don't care. But but I thought to myself, I will say this about the Snyder Cut is every character does get time. Does get fleshed out, and it's amazing how Cyborg went from being almost unnecessary in the what I would call the theatrical cut, Whedon cut, theatrical cut, whatever we want to call it, to being almost the main character in this version. Yeah,
he is 100% the main character in this. He makes Batman an ancillary character. Who the fuck does that?
And Brian, I know that you and I, long before we had a podcast, got into like a long, healthy debate on. I don't like Batman existing in the DC universe with the other characters because he basically is useless. Superman
useless.
at any time could punch him into the sun. But
gonna disagree with you on that one.
I know. We had this debate. We did. And let us know, audience, what you think of that. But it's hard when you're putting that to film, and it's like, oh no, we have to fight Superman now, and Batman's like, cool, I'm gonna grab his coffee while you guys fight because you have powers. Yeah. So Batman is almost in the background by default anyways, because I know, he's smarter than everybody else. He knows more science than everybody else. He has more money than everybody else, more gadgets, but he doesn't have any powers.
No. Batman's mind is his power. Okay. Batman in other media has literally mapped out every single weakness of every member of the Justice League. So that in an instance when, Superman goes nuts, he knows how to take him down. Now, what I liked about this, which was different, of course, they never did the whole fucking gauntlet thing in the Whedon cut. I don't think they ever had that where Batman had those special gauntlets that can absorb energy. But
right,
I liked how they had that in there because, yes, that gives him something that is going to pay off and be necessary in a fight with, say, Steppenwolf or Superman, right? He has to have something to defend him. Yes, he is Batman. Yes, he is human. But again, those gauntlets really are representative of his mind, and obviously having Alfred there is important too. By the way, got to say, I don't hate this version of Alfred. I like it. It's different. It's an Alfred who gets his hands dirty.
Oh, I kind of love this version of Alfred. Yeah, if there's anything that I took away from this that I loved, I think it's Jeremy Irons as Alfred.
I mean, I'm just waiting for Jeremy Irons to do his, Die Hard 3 impression. Yeah. His Simon.
Well, it's all the Alfreds that come. They've gotten, like, how all the Aunt Mays and Spider-Man have gotten hotter and younger.
Yeah.
Like, it's all the Alfreds have become, like, more badass as you've gone on, because like the one in the Gotham TV show, he's just a straight up shit kicker.
Oh man, that one there, I forget his name, but he doesn't fuck around. He does not. He gives no fucks. He's like, I literally was a special forces soldier in England, and I did some shady shit. But I'm here to protect you, Master Bruce. So like, I love that stuff. I love that Alfred is not just waiting around serving martinis and asking Master Bruce what he wants to eat for dinner, but he's actually doing something because that's nice. It's nice to have that. And also it shows kind of their relationship, which was nice because, again, in the Whedon cut, we didn't get any of that shit. We got none of it.
Yeah.
We got Alfred on the comms. That was it. It's like, okay, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah, and you would think from comic book lover Joss Whedon, he wouldn't just sidetrack Alfred like that.
I don't think that, and I mentioned this before, I don't think that Whedon was in the right mind space at the time that he took this particular film. He had just come off of Age of Ultron, okay? And it's documented that he had a horrible experience working on Age of Ultron because of studio interference. And then you get to a movie like fucking Justice League, and what do you think you're going to have to deal with now? Studio fucking interference, left and right. So I think he was just not the right place. I think he took out a lot of his aggression that he had built up from working with Marvel on DC. I think he really did. Because he's like, I want to get out of being the fucking, superhero guy. I've been doing it for what? At this point it was, probably about 5 years at that point, and now getting lumped back into another thing. I think he was just done, and I think he took it out. But that also is not barring the fact that he is, obviously a garbage human.
Well, they probably swaged his ego, too. Like, I hate to say this, about
think they pulled a Burton on him?
Well, no, I think that, like, if you look at the Avengers, it almost. I'm stammering. Keep it in. It almost feels impossible to shoot Like it seems like an unfilmable comic book series because there's just too much, i.e. some people make 4-hour fucking movies.
Yeah.
But it's like 2 hours and a couple of minutes. It's fun. Everybody gets time to shine. Joss Whedon did theoretically the impossible. So Warner Brothers is sitting around thinking, well, if he did that, he can take this 4-hour cut and reshoot this and change this and reorganize that and put in jokes, and he can save this. He can do anything.
Yeah.
Which not only is it, lightning doesn't necessarily strike twice, but at the same time, you're asking him to take, there's a tattoo, and it's like, make the same tattoo, but a different tattoo over top of the existing tattoo.
Yes.
It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, also, by the way, there was no artwork for us to give you beforehand, so you got to have to make it up as you go along. Because the one thing I will say is that Marvel had separate movies that took care of a lot of those characters being able to shine. You had a Captain America movie, you had a Thor movie, you had at this point 2 Iron Man movies. You even had an Incredible Hulk movie, which most people forgot about, which is okay.
With Edward Norton.
But the point is that you had time with each of these characters. So that, when you bring them all together in the first kind of group movie, you don't need to retread that kind of personal stories. Those are already there. They're already fresh in the fans' minds. Again, it kind of goes back to, why did Warner Brothers think, let's just jump right into the group movie, not even worry about doing the kind of solo films. And now, of course, they're kind of rethinking that by only doing the solo films. That's now the amazing part.
Yeah. It's so bizarre. I'm with you. We got an Aquaman movie after Justice League. We're getting
most people like the Aquaman movie. I haven't seen it
Yeah.
yet, but most people I've heard of have said they actually liked Aquaman.
I think it's because Jason Momoa is very likable, but and sexy for all of our ladies and gay listeners. Sexy man.
He is a very good looking man.
But then we're getting a Flash movie now-ish. We should have had these movies before. Maybe they didn't want to be Marvel, but still. Yeah, like you said, Brian, if we could have been introduced to these people, their backstories, their strengths, their flaws, who they are, knew about them, then maybe not only would we have cared a lot more about them in Justice League, but you wouldn't have to spend 4 hours setting things up because we haven't seen Aquaman yet. We haven't seen, the Flash yet, etc.
Right. Do we want to talk about things we didn't like in this cut? Some things that we thought were, we mentioned the 4-hour thing, and obviously we're not giving everything away on this because it is still relatively fresh, but what were some things, John, that you just didn't really care for even after this improved cut kind of came about?
So a lot of my complaints about a Zack Snyder production are more abstract in the sense of how he approaches making a movie. So there wasn't I really hated this character, or there was a boom mic that hit Lois Lane in the head, or something like that. That it's so easy to point to. Yeah. Because I feel like if I said, the nice scene between Lois Lane and Martha Kent, and that turned out to be Martian Manhunter, completely taking away all of the thoughtfulness of that scene, that's really, to me, more just kind of nitpicking, cleaning out the mites from the monkey's hair, so to speak. So I don't think that I had any problem with this version that wasn't there in the theatrical one, because I know that say Steppenwolf got more fleshed out around this version, but to me he was still a boring CGI mess.
But Thanos was also you could call him a boring CGI mess,
but he had an actual agenda because when Joss Whedon changed it around to take Darkseid out, he's just like, I want to destroy the world because I'm evil. And then this version, it's, oh no, he has a motive. He wants to make Darkseid happy. Well, what's Darkseid's motive? He's evil. Oh, so now it's not Steppenwolf who's evil.
Well, not necessarily. It isn't necessarily that he's evil. They pulled a lot of comic book things in. I understood what the anti-life equation was, and understood what that whole element was, and we're getting to some spoilery territory.
Right. So do I, because we're nerds, dude. But I mean, if you didn't know this stuff, Darkseid just seems like,
but here's the thing. That's really all there is to Darkseid. That's his whole arc, is he wants the anti-life equation. It's the same thing as I want the Infinity Stones. Okay. And I imagine that if you tried to flesh out why Darkseid wants that, even a little bit more, you'd start going into 4.5 hour territory. And I'll obviously need more footage with Darkseid in it, interacting with what he wants, which is the anti-life equation. I do think that they brought that element in way too fucking late. I think that came in at like nearly the end of the third act. And that was more or less designed to kind of set up what I would imagine is, a Justice League 2, which, we could talk all day about kind of the setup for this, if a potential sequel would happen, which obviously from what I've been reading, that's not going to happen.
We'll see how much money this makes, how many HBO Max subscribers it gets them.
I think Zack Snyder's done. I really do.
Well, we'll see what dump truck of money comes up to his front door.
We said the same thing about Hugh Jackman returning for Wolverine, and he's still, no matter how many dump trucks of money they keep pouring on his rock grave, he's still not coming back. So,
well, I'm thinking Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd. No, we're not going to do Ghostbusters 2. They went, here's a truckload of money and a pound of cocaine, and they went, all right, let's do it. And a cut of the toys. And they went, okay.
Fair enough. For me, what I found to be the most grating aspect of this, up until the end, like the actual end of towards the end of the movie, was the fucking Flash. I hate him. Really hate him. Yeah, I don't like him.
And I've heard that from a lot of people. And I grew up reading Flash comics. I loved Flash to death. I love this take on the character. I actually did find him endearing. The thing is, I found him annoying in the Joss Whedon version, and he's supposed to be the king of like zippy comedy. But I found him actually funny and endearing in the Zack Snyder version. Mr. Comedy, Zack Snyder.
I did not like him. And honestly, I blame the TV show, The Flash, because I really like what Grant Gustin does for that character. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've seen any of the Flash on WB, but I love what he's given to that character. He's really fleshed it out and made it his own. So when I watch this version of the Flash, which just kind of, for me, seems like the Riddler with metahuman powers, I'm completely taken out of it, because I get that, and you're not the first person to tell me that this is kind of like, the comedic version that it's in the comic books, and I get that. I don't care for it. It felt kind of improperly placed. I know he was supposed to be in there to kind of break up the dourness of the movie, but I really just didn't care for him. That said, though, his moment at the end was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was absolutely 100% brilliant.
Now, are we staying out of like deep spoiler territory?
I don't want to go completely in because it's still fresh.
Okay.
But if you haven't seen it, the Flash is annoying for, I'd say, about 80% of the movie. But towards the end, he is a major part of that ending, and honestly, he was perfect. He did absolutely what I would think. It made it great because they didn't have that stupid fucking, Flash has to rescue the Russian family from the big red sky in the Whedon one.
If you haven't seen this, there's no Russian family this time.
Yeah, there's no Russian family. They're dead. They're dead. Yeah. But, he did exactly what I would imagine the Flash would do. And I loved it. I absolutely loved that part. And I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my God. But, throughout the 80% of the movie, he was annoying. I didn't like him. I just really didn't care for him. Another thing I thought that was terrible, and this could lead me into kind of my wife's take on it, because I asked my wife, if you remember back to when we did Batman v Superman, okay, long ago, I asked she was my girlfriend at the time, but I asked her to do kind of a one-sentence review, and she did a one-sentence review for this movie. But one of the other things that I hated about this was the fucking Joker. I thought he looked ridiculous.
I feel like
fucking ridiculous.
technically that's a spoiler, but it's in the damn trailer.
It's in the fucking trailer. Okay, it's in the trailer.
That scene at the end, and like I said, I won't go into any details on it, but that was why I hate Zack Snyder. The movie should have ended when it ended, and then we get this extra 15 minutes of, like I said, I can't really describe it because, you see it if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But it was just garbage.
It's just the stuff you've seen in the trailers. If you've seen the trailers, you know what we're talking about. It's kind of that nightmare scene. I'm not going to explain kind of the reasoning why we're in there, but that shows back up, and we see Jared Leto talking with Batman, and it's really, really, just kind of man. And I read that the reason they did this was because someone, and probably Zack Snyder, felt that the Batman should really have a scene with the Joker, at least that version of the Joker.
Yeah.
Aside from just the Suicide Squad bullshit that they did. I get that, but does it really have to make him look like that? Like, that's always been the issue with the Joker, or this version of the Joker, is that he looks just fucking ridiculous. And he looked fucking ridiculous in this.
How many different versions can you make of a white-faced guy with green hair and a big mouth?
Yeah, but I've seen, here's the thing, I love the Joaquin Phoenix version. And that's supposed to not even be the real Joker. It's supposed to just be the proto one. So I don't know. It just, maybe I also just don't really care for Jared Leto's take on this character. But I disliked it. And I want to get to my wife's little segment here.
Yeah.
Her one sentence review here. So this is what she said about Justice League. She said, I like it. She didn't say I liked it. She said, I enjoyed it. Big improvement from the original. The acting for Batman was better. Joker looks ridiculous, and I'll never watch it again.
That's fair. Yeah.
I got to explain why she said I'll never watch it again, though. She asked that I explain this. Okay?
All right. I was going to say I was going to agree with her, but I'm curious her take. Okay.
Okay. So, one, her and I both, like, she actually hated Batman in Batman v Superman. Hated him. Hated that movie. Thought it was stupid. It took me about a good week to, kind of see her opinion. And now I also am not exactly a fan of Batman v Superman. This one, she actually really liked how Ben Affleck was playing Batman. I tend to agree with her. She also hated the Joker. And why she said I'll never watch it again is because it's 4 fucking hours.
Yes.
There's no reason.
That's what I was going to say.
There's no reason to watch another 4 fucking hour movie again. I don't even watch the extended version of The Godfather more than one time.
Yeah.
Okay?
I
you don't need to. What was that? You do?
I said I do, yeah.
Okay, that's cool. But I'm just saying, there's no need to watch it again. Okay? This isn't something that you're going to put on a Sunday afternoon and say, hey, you know what? I feel like vegging out. Hey, let's put on the 4-hour cut of Justice League. Okay. I will, I guess, start making dinner because it's 1 o'clock now, and by the time we're done, we're probably going to want dinner. But, I agree with her. I don't think I will want to really watch this again. It's kind of a one and done
absolutely.
Movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of a one and done movie.
Unless you worship at, the altar of Zack Snyder's nutsack, no, you're not going to watch this again. And I think that this was more of I need to see it. I'm not going to say like a car accident because that's not fair. You want to know what was different, so to speak. Like, like the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, or something like that. Like, it was a novelty that I think probably 80% of the audience will watch this the one time to see, okay, what was different, what was different in the pacing, the editing, the characters, the reshoots, the original shoots, etc., as almost a game. I guess not a car accident, like kind of like a game. And then, they won't revisit it. Like, once you've seen it, unless you almost want to watch it again to compare and contrast again, because I did recently watch the theatrical version to compare the two. And I feel that almost the theatrical cut is somehow more confusing, even though they brought in a guy to make it make more sense but explain that. But yeah, I think that 80% of the people saw it and they're like, oh, okay, now I've seen his version. I'll never watch it again.
I'm glad you brought up the Donner cut of Superman 2, because I really think that if we're going to compare anything, that whole thing there really is kind of the thing you can measure against. I think most people, they don't look at the Lester cut of Superman 2. I think it was Lester, right, who made the original Superman 2. I don't think people look at that cut and say that's Superman 2 anymore. And I think that's because of the Donner cut. I think most people who understand kind of the behind the scenes of making, and when I say most people, I mean like people who are fans of Superman, and love those movies. I'm not talking about your average everyday person who likes Superman. I'm talking about people who grew up with, say, the Christopher Reeves movies. Once you realize the behind the scenes shit with the Salkinds and basically sacking Richard Donner in the middle of his movie, and you realize the nasty experience that gave him, and you see his eventual cut that Warner Brothers years later gave him, that's kind of the version you say that's actually Superman 2. And my guess is that this version of Justice League will, in essence, basically become the version of Justice League that pretty much everyone's going to reference. I don't think people are going to look at the original cut and say, yep, that one was good. This one added more.
Do you think people will care enough to do that, though? Because Superman, those first two movies, whether it's with the second one, whether it's Donner or Lester, and I'm going to try to be as constructive as possible here when I say Lester can eat a bag of shit. But Hard Day's Night was good, and the one thing he did is like, those are beloved films. I don't know if either version of Justice League will be beloved enough that people will even care enough to say that's the version or that's the version, except for Zack Snyder's Army.
Here's the thing. The only thing that is different, and the reason why I say that there's a good chance that this version of Justice League will become the de facto one that people are beloved with, is a combination of a couple things. One, I think the fact that we have social media now that drove this. Okay?
Yeah.
There was no desire on the part of Warner Brothers to even entertain doing another cut of Justice League. There's none, zero, zip, zilch. They didn't want to touch it. They wanted to focus on the Batman. They wanted to focus on Joker. They wanted to focus on solo movies. They wanted to basically say, take a wash of Justice League and not even entertain it. Okay?
Yeah.
It wasn't until fans and people who understood kind of the behind the scenes shit, they demanded that a cut be done. And when you have that many people demand something and then they get it and it actually pays off, how many times does that happen? Where fans demand something, studio does what they want, and it actually, for better or worse, pays off. That never happens. Never.
I can think of only one example.
What other example?
That is the 85 different versions of Blade Runner.
Yeah, that's true. You got a point there, but that's the only other time, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It very rarely does that ever happen, where fans being the driving force to kind of bring something to light. The only other thing I could think of is Deadpool. Deadpool was, at the time, a lot of people don't remember this. This was a movie that they had done a test for. They had done a test shot for, and were not even entertaining making it a movie. It didn't even get to that point. They had done some test VFX, and sure enough, those tests leaked onto the internet. And people were like, yeah, why didn't you turn this into a movie? And that is what led to Deadpool. So that rarely ever happens. So that's why I really think that because of the fan demands for it, this will, and because it paid off, this will become the de facto version of Justice League. People will no longer really think of Whedon's take on it. And honestly, you combine that with, the obvious stories of racism that came out of the making of Justice League under Whedon's watch, and of course, his just terrible ass fucking behavior. I think people are going to distance themselves from that version like the plague.
Yeah.
But
and I mean, this is all owed to streaming too, is that HBO Max, if there was no pandemic, they wouldn't be basically holding on to survival until this is over on HBO Max. Like, their movies would have never been released on HBO Max if people could still go to the movie theaters freely without any worries. So they figured, oh, okay, well, here's something else to tantalize them, and it's streaming. So they're at home, not probably, they are at home, and they want to get up, they can pause it, they can go to the bathroom, they can get a snack, they can stretch, they can come back to it. If it was still movie theater minded, I don't think we would ever see this version of the film, no matter how much the fans asked for it.
No,
I don't think we would have ever seen it.
No, we wouldn't. I think it would have been one of those things that they would eventually put on HBO Max, but I don't think that it would have had the fanfare that you're seeing.
Yeah,
I think
I completely agree.
This movie was absolutely 100% made partially because of the pandemic and because of the desire of fans. This was something like like Tiger King. It became an experience. People are going, I saw people blow up the minute the 18th came around of, I'm watching Justice League. I fucking did it. This became more than just a movie. It became a communal experience of people watching it. And that is something that really has kind of shined its light in light of the pandemic.
Yeah, and we need that, if we can be alone together kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, we can all watch it and then, hear people like us talk about it. Thank you for listening and downloading this episode. Check our back catalog while you're there. But, I didn't have actually high hopes for this because I remember Batman v Superman. I was almost kicked out of the movie theater for laughing so hard because it was so bad. And then I heard somebody say, well, you got to see the director's ultimate super duper awesome cut. And so I was like, okay, and
dude.
I watched it, with like the extra 50 minutes of stuff. I'm like, this still sucks.
Yeah,
this is still terrible. Yeah, it makes a little more sense now, but it still sucks and it's too long. So when I, this Justice League thing with Zack Snyder, I was like, I bet this is going to be a toilet fire.
That's what I thought too.
And I thought, oh, it's actually decent-ish.
Yeah.
It's a B-. You
know what? I said this at the beginning. The bar was so fucking low that all that Zack Snyder had to do was really show up. Yeah. That's all he had to do. You show up.
Yeah.
When the bar is buried in the muck, you just have to step over it at that point. And honestly, the original Justice League was absolutely that. A fucking bomb buried in the muck. Couple kind of last things I wanted to mention about this. There was a lot of kind of reaction to some of the creative choices, if we will, on Zack Snyder's part in terms of displaying the movie. What am I talking about here, John?
Yes, so I'm going to try not to go too nerdy and deep into this for people, but, there are a variety
You might have noticed something different about the framing of Justice League if you saw it.
There are many aspect ratios, and while there are countless ones that you learn about in terms of filmmaking, I'm going to keep it simple as 4:3 and 16:9. Yeah. And the idea is, I'm sure anybody could tell, the movie theater screen, what is a rectangle, and before we had widescreen television, we had the catheter tube ones, they were square. Yeah. So the idea is that if you ever saw the beginning of a videotape when you came home, like, this has been formatted to fit your screen, i.e. it's cropped because they had to fit it on. And I remember my dad, I had one of the oldest dads in the world. Everybody else would be like, my dad's like 40. I'd be like, my dad's 54. What the fuck? In the same grade. He was always so mad when we would watch something that was letterbox because he's like, wow, you're cutting off the top and bottom of the screen. I'm like, yeah, but Dad, now you can see the whole frame. And he was like, no, what are you talking about? They're cutting off the top and bottom. And I tried to explain to him the Last Supper. And I said, imagine looking at this famous Da Vinci painting, but imagine getting a few of the apostles cut off so that you could see it in a full frame. And that kind of made him understand what I was talking about. But I am going too long. He wanted it. He wanted it in an IMAX frame. Now, an IMAX screen it's like a giant square.
Yes.
And while you can adjust that aspect ratio, because they did it for the theatrical cut, to make it fit a widescreen television, widescreen laptop, he wanted it to stay in that same format for a giant IMAX screen when there's very, very few IMAX screens in the United States.
I imagine that Zack Snyder has one of those IMAX screens in his house.
Yeah, in his house. Yeah, exactly. So that is why it is what they would call 4:3 or somewhere very close to that. And why it's a square picture. It's because it's keeping the integrity of the IMAX screen, i.e. Zack Snyder's a pretentious douchebag.
Well, he's not the only pretentious douchebag. This is something that like Nolan has done.
Right, but his aspect ratio fits. I mean, you can see it change when he goes to an IMAX camera, but it doesn't go to 4:3.
No, it doesn't. He crops it. I at first had a problem with it, but surprisingly, and I imagine this is just because I'm used, we grew up probably about a third of our lives using nothing but the 4:3. I actually got back into it and I was okay. But I know I commented to a friend of mine on Facebook, and he's like, yeah, this is like if Elon Musk was contracted to create spacecraft, and he just shows up with the 1980s rocket pack and says, here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it once I got into it, but it can be jarring. I really don't think that it added anything to his framing. I really don't think that. I didn't see anything in here that I was like, oh yes, having that aspect ratio really gave me more real estate for the movie.
It's because it only works for an IMAX screen. Yes. When you're at home, it's why are there two black bars on the side?
Yes, it's pillar bars. Yeah. And that's the thing is I didn't think that it added anything extra to it. If I had a giant IMAX screen, then sure, yeah, it looks nice. But again, this was made for Zack Snyder's living room. This was not made for you and me.
Yeah.
So there's that. Last point I really want to bring up, and this is what I would say is probably takes up majority of that 4 hours, aside from the character development, that was welcome addition, is Zack Snyder's reliance on fucking slow motion.
I knew going into a Zack Snyder movie that there was going to be
fucking
countless slow motion shots.
Slow motion, even when the Flash is moving, it's fucking slow motion. Jesus Christ, man. I knew that with 300, that's his thing. That's what he gets so hard on for. But Jesus Christ, did it have to be everywhere?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was thinking the one scene where Aquaman saves the guy, and then he's like, I'm taking this bottle of whiskey, put it on his tab, and he's walking baback into the ocean. Yeah, and it's maybe a minute long, and I'm thinking, there's something you can cut. There's, you take the slow motion out of this movie, and maybe you got yourself a 3-hour movie.
Every action scene in this movie, no matter how big or how small, had at least 2 instances of slow-mo. At least 2, if not more. Everything from the Flash moving, that was slow-mo. Batman fighting somebody, that's slow. Superman fighting someone, guess what? That's slow. You want Wonder Woman leaping off of a statue? Guess what? Going to be in fucking slow-mo. Everything. Everything was in slow-mo.
The Flash has to be in slow-mo, though, because we have to be able to see what he's doing.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll give you that one. Okay, but everyone else, is everyone else in fucking slow motion? Does everyone have to move that way? You could knock this thing down to 3.5 hours if you just remove the slow-mo. I really believe that.
I do think of the opposite, like Quantum of Solace, the second one with Daniel Craig.
No one likes that
one. Well, one thing I remember seeing it, I think either opening weekend or the following weekend, and they did a lot of action scenes where they put on, a high shutter onto the camera, and they shot it at a high frame rate, and the guy is just running with the camera, and it's one of the few times that I honestly thought I was going to throw up watching
that.
Because
that was a common thing. That was something. That was something that a couple movies did, like Public Enemies, if you remember that movie, the Johnny Depp film, released around the same time. Same sort of thing. That was a Michael Mann thing, that he just loved to go with that really like buttery smooth motion that looks way too realistic, and makes you sick watching. But that was the thing, kind of the ultra realistic thing. I don't care for it. You know what? Here's what you do: just shoot the thing 24 FPS because that's the way every movie is. Okay, and just stay the fuck away from the slow mo for once. Just do it.
Yeah,
stay away from slow. Put it in when it makes sense. Okay.
Everybody has a style, I guess. And like, if you went into a Zack Snyder movie, you got to expect the slow mo. If you go into a M. Night Shyamalan movie, you got to expect a stupid twist.
Yeah, no twists in this one. At least for me, I didn't feel there was any twists, which was great. Again, I don't want to give the whole movie away. That's why we really didn't go into utter detail on the plot. You can watch it, for 4 hours and then come and listen to us. But
I would say that there's nothing too much to give away because the plot is there. It's just explained a lot more, and fleshed out a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. If you saw the original Justice League, I mean, for the most part, it pretty much keeps to that plot. It just, makes it better. It's like anything. It's like you literally added salt to a dish, right? You make spaghetti and you don't add salt or sugar to your pasta sauce. It's going to taste crap, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you've added in all the ingredients that need to go in there. Batman's there. Wonder Woman's there. Everyone's there, but it still just is missing something. Like, I don't know, character development. Looking at you, Whedon. What the fuck? And sure enough, Zack Snyder comes around and says, hey, you know what? You need to throw some basil in there. You need to throw some salt and some pepper and some sugar to balance it out with the salt. And that's what you get, is a nice dish. And that's really what Justice League is, this 4-hour cut. It's a nice dish. It didn't have to blow us out of the water. You're not going to get Endgame chills from this movie. Going to tell you that right off the bat.
Yeah.
You and I and Lane, we saw Endgame in theaters. We had fucking chills the minute we got to that final scene and we heard "On Your Left." You're not going to have that moment in here. At least I didn't have that moment in here. I can't speak for other people who really love these characters a lot. They might feel differently. But I think for the most part, everyone, you saw all your toys play together in that last battle in Endgame. And there really isn't a moment like that in here.
Well, and not every director's cut is a good thing. Like, sometimes it really changes the game and you see a director's cut and you go, oh, well, that makes a lot more sense now,
Yeah.
But I've seen Terminator 2. I love it to death, probably more than any man should. And I've seen every variation of it. And what James Cameron put in the movie theater is the best version of that movie.
Yeah.
And there's like when they call the house and, the Terminator's pretending to be John Connor and gives the wrong dog's name. And then he realizes the Liquid Terminator's there, and they say, we can't go to the house. There's a cutout shot from the movie in the director's cut where the T-1000, the Liquid Terminator, goes outside and grabs the dog's collar off the dog and sees that it's a different name. What the fuck did that help? What did that add? Nothing. He didn't get what he wanted in the first place. So what does he need to go, oh, I've been bamboozled. It didn't help anything at all.
No.
But this time, I really think that, this really helped turn a dog turd into, like I said, a B- for me.
Yeah, I think that's
it was
that's
all right.
saying something. Turning it from utter shit to it's a movie. It's not half bad.
The
Not
third
gonna
act
watch it
was
ever
still
again.
diarrhea. Yeah.
Not going to watch it ever again.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's not terrible. But yeah, go check out Justice League again. We kind of give it our stamp of, it's all right. You're all right in our book, Justice League, Zack Snyder edition. Sorry you had to deal with the shit personally. Sorry you had to deal with the shit of having your creation distorted by a garbage human being in a garbage studio.
You know what that cost, right?
How much?
About $80 to $100 million for all the Joss Whedon reshoots.
Oh, you mean
82.
Zack Snyder reshoots or the Joss Whedon cut?
The Joss Whedon cut, because he did reshoot so much of the movie. And yeah, $80 to $100 million. So, when Batman goes, you can talk to fish? How much did that cost? That's the only thing he added to that shot was, can you really talk to fish? Ugh. But
I don't want to ever talk about that ever again. That's not Batman.
Yeah. Now, I know that most people don't have 6 hours to donate, but I would suggest doing what I did. Watch the theatrical cut and then watch the Snyder cut. I know that's well over 6 hours, and that's a lot. But you don't have to do it in one sitting.
I wouldn't put our fans through that. You can skip that. You don't need to know. Just listen to us. We're telling you. That's a garbage movie. Avoid the Whedon cut at all costs. Yes, it is shorter, but it is terrible quality. You will be very angry. Watch the Snyder cut. That's actually what the director wanted to do, even if he has some goofy shit in there, like making every frame of it a postage stamp and putting in goddamn, slow-mo to jizz proportions. But it's still his fucking movie. It's still his vision. I respect that. Give the man his 4 hours and you'll be happy. Okay? Because I came out of it happy. I was like, okay, that's good. And even me, I was like, you know what? I could see you continuing this on. That would be nice. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Maybe, I'll be wrong and they'll show up with a truckload of money and say, hey, please do this because we were wrong. But I'm okay with kind of sunsetting this and looking towards, Robert Pattinson's Batman. I'm looking, towards, they're going to make a sequel to Joker, which is supposed to, I guess, go into who the real Joker is. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I know. I'm okay with that. Let's move past this. This was kind of a good thing to kind of get through and kind of move in the next direction. With that said, John, final thoughts on Justice League from you.
As I said, not to be too redundant here, but I found it fascinating more than anything else, just to compare the two. And then I think what was even as much fun was finding out all the background information on it. Because I think release the documentary cut of this movie, and all the ins and outs that went in. Mm-hmm. Like, I would love for there to be what's that? The movies that made us, Justice League, where they talk about, what happened when they brought in Whedon and,
I imagine there will be. I imagine there will be. I mean, they did that with that Death of Superman documentary. I imagine they'll do the same sort of thing with this. I would say the background of what made the two, like knowing that and then watching the two, like it, to me, this whole thing was fascinating more than I enjoyed anything particularly about it, because while this one is much better than the theatrical cut, not really hard to do, I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder and his vision, so I kept an open mind, but I did not think I was going to go in and go, this is my favorite movie now. I just thought, right, it's all right. It's fine. That's kind of how I was.
It's more fascinating than it is good.
Yeah. That's kind of how I was. I enjoyed watching this movie. I did not hate it. I didn't, slog through it. It was an enjoyment to watch it. And that's really what, movies are all about, is getting enjoyment from taking a step back and being immersed in a story. And I think I can say that I was immersed in this story. My wife was immersed in it. My stepson watched it too, and he said he loved it. So, I mean, we that was the success. So great job, Zack Snyder. I'm glad you were able to release this. And I think that kind of puts a punctuation on Justice League there. John, where can they find you at on the Twitter machine?
Well, I was going to say we came in 3 hours under time, so
I know, right?
Joss Whedon actually got a hold and re-edited this episode. No. But no, you can find me at the Unreal J Wolf.
You can find me at Brian Connington. I also run the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, or maybe you are Joss Whedon and you do not like how we talked about you in this show and you think your version's just amazing, you can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com and we'll tell you that you're wrong and you're a garbage human being, and obviously Zack Snyder had you beat. Be sure to subscribe, or follow us, because apparently Apple Podcasts is moving to follow now, us wherever you listen to audio, and we will see you next time.
Release the original black and white 7-hour first cut.
Epicast.